I'm here to deliver the remarks on behalf of Your Excellency, Ambassador Josefa Sako, Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment at the African Union Commission. Your Excellency, Mr. Jack Conan, Minister of Environment, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to stand on existing protocol. It gives me great pleasure and honor on behalf of His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to participate in this important 12th session of CCDA event and discussion on climate change and development in Africa. We are all convened here today by the critical need to confront the urgent challenge of climate change and the pivotal role the African continent continues to play in mitigating and adapting to it. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to iterate the fact that Africa accounts for roughly 18% of the world's population, yet contributes barely 4% of global emissions and bears the highest climate change burden. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, 6th Assessment Report, confirms that limiting temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius or even 2 degrees Celsius will have significant adverse impacts if rapid and large-scale reductions in greenhouse gas emissions are not undertaken. The IPCC reports further project that a global average warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius means 3 degrees Celsius for the African continent. It is further projected that a 3 degrees Celsius global warming trajectory will cause catastrophic disruption to African food systems, infrastructure, lifestyles, and civilization within the next 30 years. Without urgent adaptation and mitigation efforts, climate change will lead to an equivalent of 5% annual loss in gross domestic product in the continent by 2040, with the poor, women, and the most vulnerable and the marginalized populations, mostly harbored in the African continent, bearing the heavy burden. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, most African countries have already made considerable progress in integrating climate action into development initiatives, especially the nationally determined contributions and national adaptation plans in line with various strategies and actions, such as the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the African Union Climate Change and Resilient Development Strategy and Action Plan, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, African countries will require about $3 trillion to implement their NDCs by 2030. So far, financing climate action remains a challenge. That is why we are here today, to discuss and deliberate key actions, strategies, and African position as we access the implementation of our COP28 outcomes and strategize forward for COP29 in November this year in Baku, Azerbaijan. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us collectively work towards COP29 with the common African position on the new collective quantified goal on climate finance that is expected to take over from the US $100 billion by 2020 goal promised in Copenhagen in 2009. Let us seize this opportunity and make bold proposals that will be responsive to the African continent and concerns in the international climate finance architecture and the new collective quantified goal on finance, with equal attention given to adaptation, which is a priority for us in Africa. I call upon all of us to have a collective voice as we prepare for COP29 on mobilizing climate finance at scale for the continent, anchoring our negotiations, deliberations, and our common position towards grant rather than debt or loans, scaling finance for projects and carbon markets. To all our esteemed partners, we appreciate and thank you for your continued support of the implementation of the African Union Climate Change and Resilient Development Strategy and Action Plan, as we aim to combat the impacts of climate change and ensure sustainable development on the continent. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the future achievement of the new collective quantified goal on climate finance for the African continent is contingent on sustainable climate finance on adaptation, mitigation, and resilience development in Africa. With our natural resources, innovative spirit, and the support of the international community, we can create a sustainable and prosperous future for all. Let us seize this opportunity to drive meaningful change, both for our continent and the world. Thank you, and I look forward to fruitful discussions. I submit.